How's it going, guys? Hayden here from Alarm System Store again, and today I'm showing you a new PowerG Plus device, which is the PGP-IO. This is a input-output device, basically put in the form of a sensor. So this is basically a takeover module, very similar to the PowerG wired to wireless translators, so like the PG9 hardwire and stuff like that. However, it is basically a reduced size version of that, and it comes with 4 available terminals. So by default, this thing offers 2 inputs and 2 outputs you can add to your PowerG Plus compatible system. So that basically means 2 sensors and 2 PGMs. However, you can configure this so that it works as 4 inputs, meaning you could basically just connect 4 sensors to it to use as remote zones. There's a lot of applications where this may come in handy. However, today I'm just going to kind of run you through all the basics of it. Now, one thing I need to point out before we get into it, if you have an IQ panel that is on software version 4.6 or higher, you should be good to go to enroll this, set it up, all that. However, if you're working with the IQ Pro, like I am, you do have to make sure your IQ Pro is updated to version 4.4.1. So that just came out about a week ago, as of the time I'm making this video. I'll go ahead and show you what it looks like. So if we go to the software here, you can see at the top it says 4.4.1 in, and that is the software version of your IQ Pro. So double check that. If yours has not auto-updated to 4.4.1, then you do need to manually upgrade the software. You can do that by going into your config, scrolling down to Upgrade Software, click on Patch Tag. You can try the automatic patch tag, which will basically make it connect to look for any updates if it's available. However, if it does not find that 4.4.1 on its own, you just click patch tag here, and then where it says patch tag, you just type in IQ Pro 4.4.1 in, and just like that. So all lowercase, all one word, and then select yes, I want to upgrade, and then when you do, the upgrade button lights up, you click that, and it will download that update. So once you have that done on your IQ Pro, you may go back to enrolling this device. So, as I mentioned, this has 2 configurations that you can use. The default is 2 inputs and 2 outputs. So, that's what I'm going to show you guys when I hook this up. However, I'm going to show you how to configure it real quick. So, by default, it is going to have a pull tab so you can quickly enroll it. However, if you do want to change it to the 4 input style, you will have to pull that tab out and wait for it to power up. And then once it is powered up, down here on the right side is your enrollment button. So it's a little brown button, just like most PowerG devices have. And if you want to change the configuration from 2 inputs, 2 outputs to 4 inputs, then you hold this button down until you see the red LED. So what's going to happen after I release the button, when I see the red LED, it is going to give me 3 LED flashes. The color of those flashes indicate what configuration it is. If it flashes 3 times red, that means it is in 4 input mode. If it flashes 3 times green, that means it is in 2 input, 2 output mode. So when you're doing this, pay close attention to the color of the LED. So right now, like I said, it comes default in 2 input, 2 output. So if I hold this down until we get the red LED, and then release it, we should get 3 red flashes. There we go. So that just confirmed it is now in 4 input mode. If we want to do it again, you just do the exact same thing. Hold it down until you see the red LED. And then release, and we'll get 3 green flashes now. So now it is back in 2 input, 2 output mode. So it is very important that you pay attention to what configuration your unit is in, because that configuration also determines the prefix of the ID when you are enrolling the device. So if you are enrolling it as 2 inputs and 2 outputs, you will use the basic ID that is shown on the device, which is 530, and for this one, 0040. However, if you change that to the 4 input configuration, it is going to change that prefix to 106-0040. So whenever you're enrolling your device, whatever prefix it shows you or whatever you type in, that's the kind of device it's going to look for. So let me go into the installation real quick. We'll go ahead and pretend like we're adding the device. So if I go to auto learn right now, I'm just going to remove the battery and then plug it back in a second, and that will help it auto enroll. So if we power it back up, it's going to send out a signal to the system, and it will try to enroll as 530-0040. So that tells me it is in 2 input, 2 output mode. If we cancel that, and we'll go ahead and swap this back. So 3 red flashes, we are now in 4 input mode. So if we do the auto enroll again, it shows up as 106-0040. So make sure you double check both things when you are enrolling this device. Make sure that you are getting the correct 3 flashes from your device, and also make sure that your ID prefix shows as the one you want to enroll. Anyway, that is how you enroll the device. It's very simple. However, just make sure you are very careful about which configuration you add, because if you're trying to connect 4 sensors to this, you don't want to end up with only 2 inputs and 2 outputs. So we're going to go ahead and go back, and we're going to enroll it as the 2 input, 2 output configuration. So we got it added. So we're going to click add here. Now, multiple things are going to pop up whenever you enroll this device. So you can see 5 things popped up there. Basically, the sensor itself enrolled as the PGP-IO2, or you have input 1, slot 3, input 2, slot 4, and then you also saw at the bottom there, it said output added 2 different times. So it's telling you that it also added 2 outputs. It's not going to show those on this page, but this is where you would configure your inputs. So just like with any other sensor, you're going to have to go in, select a few options. If you want to change the name, you're welcome to. Set up bypass, tamper, LED, whatever. Click save. Now for the inputs, each one is going to act as its own wired zone, essentially. So on this device, input 1 is always the leftmost terminal here. If you look down inside there, it's probably hard to see, but it does say I1. That is input 1 on here. So I don't really know where the slot number is coming from, so don't pay attention to that on this device. However, you can set it as whatever type of device you would like. You can set it up as motions, glass breaks, whatever. So although this device is designed to basically work with like door contacts and stuff, you can set up motions if you wanted to. So if I wanted to basically power a motion with one of the outputs on here and then connect it to the input, I could technically do that if I wanted to. The outputs on these are generally designed to be triggerable outputs, meaning that during a certain scenario, it is going to activate that device or that output to trigger an external device. However, there's a lot of options with this, and getting into all of them right now would make for a very lengthy video. So just use your imagination. The outputs on here can put out up to 15 volts DC and up to 1 amp of current. So they can be used for a large number of devices. I assume the higher the output though, the quicker the battery will die. So keep that in mind. However, getting back to our device here, our inputs, basically you're going to set these up just like a zone. So you can name it, you can set, the type of device it is, set the sensor group for it, whatever you need to do. And then down here at the bottom, you can decide whether it's going to be resistored, normally closed, normally open, whatever the case might be. So I'm going to just add a normally closed perimeter zone. And then here in a minute, we'll connect a door contact to it so you guys can see what it looks like in terms of how the zone activates. And it'll show configured just like it normally does when you add a zone. So for this one, we're just going to leave it as the default. I'm not going to go through plugging in another zone. We're going to back up. And now on our zone list, we have the PGP-IO2, which is the device itself. We have input 1 and input 2, which are the two inputs on the left side of the device as we are looking at it now. However, it also added two inputs. So if we back up, we can go to PGM outputs, and we have the 4 that are built into the iQ Pro itself. And then down here we have 2 additional inputs that are the PGP-IO2, which is our device. So for those, they work exactly the same as a typical PGM. If I wanted to set one up, you choose one of the 3 types of triggers it's going to be. You set up, the timer or whatever you need for your PGM output. It works just like the PGMs on the main system. So I have videos that cover how to set up PGMs on the iQ Pro. If you want to go check that out, it will basically cover that as well. Now, moving on to how you wire up the input. I do recommend, if you are going to be wiring the device, that you take the board out, because it is very difficult to get to those terminals with the wire if it is inside the housing. So real quick, inside here you have 2 tabs on this side and then 1 tab on that side. So when you put this in, it slides in this way and then pushes down, and it's just that 1 clip holding it on this side. So all you do to release it, you push that little tab, lift this side up, make sure your screw's not in the way, and then lift the whole board out. Now, before you set it down and start doing stuff with it, be aware that on the bottom side, there is a tamper here. So this little black switch here has a very thin tamper button on it. So that can break off very easily if you're just moving this around, sliding it. So just be very careful with it whenever you are wiring something to it. Now, I should probably depower the device to wire this up. However, it's just an input, so we don't have to worry about power. So you just loosen up your terminals. And we're gonna grab a wire. I had one here, here we go. All right, so we're just gonna be using the green and yellow on this wire. So plug one side in to the input that you're using, and then the middle terminal for this device is the ground. So it is the ground for all 4 inputs slash outputs. So all of your devices will basically connect to that middle terminal for the ground. However, once you have that connected, then on our other end we can attach the sensor. However, real quick, also wanted to go over where you run the wires in the housing. So on the right side, as we're looking at it, there are 2 holes that you can use here for the wires. Each one has a knockout, so if you need to run like multiple wires to this, you can knock those out and you'll have a little bit more room. However, if you're just gonna have one wire like I am, it will basically just fit through that one hole towards the outside. So we're gonna go ahead and stick that in there, feed that through. And since we have 2 extra wires, I'm gonna feed those through too, like so. So once you get it to this point, you have your wire fed through. Like I said, the top of the device slides in first, and then just carefully make sure the screw that holds it all together is out of the way. Slide it down, make sure you feed your wires carefully as you clip in the board to the housing. So now we have our wire run, and we can put the cover back on. So with the cover, it just slides in on the top, similar to the board, and then it's got a screw here on the bottom that you tighten up. So that is all we need to do with the I/O device. Now we will take our door contact, and this one's kind of beat up, but it should work okay. And we're going to take our wire, and we're just going to connect it to the sensor, like so. Alright, now we have our sensor attached, and this wire is probably going to want to fight me. There we go. And once we put the magnet to it, we should see a normally closed circuit. So, as you can see on the takeover module, while we had the cover open and the board out, we were getting a trouble on the device. We have the cover off of the I/O device itself. We do get that yellow trouble indicator. So, because there is a tamper on the bottom, you do have to have the board in the housing with the cover on before that trouble will clear all the way. And for your inputs, if a zone is open, you get this little blue circle next to that input. So after you have set everything up, got it programmed, whatever the case might be, before you exit out of programming and call it good, make sure that whenever you close your door or whatever the case is, that blue mark is gone. If it is open, it will show basically an open zone. Now, you can use resistors with this if you want to. It comes with a small pack of 5.6K resistors, which are basically the same as most DSC and IQ panels use. So if you want to use resistors, you are more than welcome to. Just make sure you wire them the correct way. So for a door contact, you would wire it in series. For a normally open device, you would wire it in parallel. Make sure that whatever the case might be, once you close your zone or it's in standby, whatever the case, that you don't have that blue circle. If you do, go back, double check your wiring, make sure your resistor is attached properly, so on and so forth. So that is all of the basics for the PGP-IO device. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there are numerous applications where you could use this device. Because it is PowerG, you have an incredible amount of range. You have 2 inputs and 2 outputs you can use, or just 4 inputs. You know, if you have a outdoor shed or whatever the case might be, and you just want to add some sensors, let's say you have a couple wired sensors in there already, you can throw this out there, and you now have remote coverage of that shed through your main system without having to set up a new panel and all that. It's just a simple wireless device that you throw out there. The outputs can be used for numerous things. You can use them for automation purposes, you can use them to power detectors, as I mentioned. So the options are insane for this device. It's actually really cool that something like this has been added, because the only way to wirelessly connect wired devices to IQ systems up till now was to use basically a wired-to-wired translator. So you basically end up with a cabinet similar to what the IQ Pro's in here, stuck in wherever you have those wired devices. Now with this, it's just a simple wireless sensor basically. You can throw this out there for a few devices and you're covered. But that's going to do it for this video. Hopefully that was enough information to at least give you guys some ideas as to how you could use this for yourself. If you have any questions, by all means leave them down below in the comments. Otherwise though, leave a like and subscribe, and I will catch you guys on the next one.